Welcome to the Hoof and Fang podcast. I'm Kirt Graves.
And I'm Maz Maddox.
How the hell are ya?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I truly don't know.
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked to each other all day.
Talked this week at all.
No,
you
not
weren't
really.
here yesterday. Mm-hmm. I came in late today and had to run home at lunch to let the dogs out. And as a result, no conversation.
Yeah, we have not talked until this moment.
Yes.
So let me think.
So let me confront you about something now.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I was like,
Can
oh
you
God.
imagine?
Can
you imagine?
Yeah. That would be a nightmare, but right. I would roll with it. You're like, by the way, I'm really mad at you about these things.
Right. I saved it for the podcast.
Yes, because it's good content.
Yeah.
God, don't ever do that to me.
I might.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
I was like, I can't make you think you're safe from that. Otherwise.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
You got to keep me on my toes.
You never know.
Just keep that anxiety real nice and high.
Right. So, but we did both do fun things this weekend.
Yeah. So me and Alex went out of town and went and visited the House on the Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And
which we can say now.
Yes, which we can officially say, even though he knew what it was as soon as we got in the car. I was like, it's like 3 hours away. And he's like, are we going to House on the Rock? And I was like, no. But I'm glad you're going to.
I was going to say, I guessed it too.
Yeah, I know.
But we used a super secret code.
Yeah. So had he tuned in, he didn't know.
Right.
Yeah. But it was fantastic. I highly recommend it. It is like walking through a weird fever dream.
I was going to say, tell people what it is. Because if you're not from Wisconsin or
you probably don't know.
Northern Illinois, you probably just have no clue what this is.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. So how we found out about it is because we were really into American Gods. And one of the episodes, Wednesday, who's like one of the main characters, he has his house is there or they meet there or something. And I remember us watching it and being like, this place is wild. Like, what is this? And we found out later it's an actual place. Yeah, it's a real place. It wasn't a set piece. It was a real thing. So we looked it up, and this is way before we moved to Wisconsin. So I was like, oh man, if we ever are somehow in Wisconsin, we should go visit.
I can't imagine a situation in which we would be, but if we are.
It's like, let's take a crazy road trip. Well, fast forward to now, it's not very far away, so we just went for it. But the best way I can describe it is this really rich, weird, eccentric man made a house on the rock. He decided to build a house on this like really cool rock he found, or like mountain area, basically. And it was just for him and his family. And he eventually just kept expanding. Like the guy was an architect and just kind of one of those like weird tinker type kind of person. So he started out with just doing weird architect, but then started doing cool stuff like making automated bands, like instruments that play themselves and stuff like that. So as he started doing more crazy stuff like that, he was convinced to open it up to the public and start charging like a small admission fee. So he did reluctantly, and it took off. People thought it was just super cool. So he kept, he left it open. It kept expanding. So now it went from like one building that's just kind of wild to 3 buildings that is just packed full of just nonsense. Like a huge indoor carousel. One of the trippiest moments is we walked down some stairs and it looked like it just dumped you onto a street with like tiny shops. And it was all just within the building, but it was so immersive. It just looked like you were on a street with like shops. And you can't go in the shops. They're just windows just with weird, eccentric, crazy shit. And it just never stopped. You would be like, oh, I'm on a street. And then you go through another pathway. And then you're in this huge room with a life-size humpback whale fighting a kraken eating a boat. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, it's just like trying to take all of this in and then going to the next space of nonsense, which is constantly flipping your brain to just weirder and weirder things.
I feel like that's what it's like inside my head all the time.
Yeah, it kind of is like that.
Do I need to visit a funhouse attraction? No.
No, because
I'm always imagining the next terrible thing.
Yeah, some of it is kind of, it toes the line of it being like whimsical and kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's like right there. And apparently they have a whole different vibe during Halloween. They do like a whole horror thing where they...
So you're going back.
Oh, of course we're going back, right? They told us about it and I was like, yeah, because they don't let you go in the normal way. They take you in backwards and like through different entrances. So even if you've been 100 times, you get totally turned around and there's people in costumes like waiting to scare the crap out of you. So we're totally going back to that.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's definitely like if you get sensory overload, don't go to this place. But it was awesome. It took us like 5 hours to get through it all. It was one of those things that once I got done with it. I just wanted to write. It was like one of those immediately inspired to do like a crazy story. But yeah, it was really, really fun. I think if you like eccentric, weird shit, you probably would like it. But again, if you get overloaded with like weirdness, maybe take it in baby steps or something. But yeah, I loved it. A+.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in my brain, the House on the Rock is somehow synonymous with creepy dolls.
There's a lot of creepy dolls.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like a whole room of like a tinier indoor carousel that's just for dolls. And I was like, this is a nightmare. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff like that. But I don't think it was meant to be scary at the time, because this is like, it started out in like the 60s. So it's just a lot of like cool antique stuff.
People were just high.
Yeah, they were very high probably. So, you know, as it ages, it gets just progressively naturally scarier because it just starts to decay and stuff like that. So, I mean, the place is well maintained, but these things are old. Yeah. So after a while, that really cool wooden carousel, I'm like, that's clearly haunted. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's very, very cool though. But yeah, that's how we spent our weekend.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I went to Milwaukee this weekend.
Fun.
For a concert.
Love it.
A thing I almost never do because I'm not really a music guy. But my good friend Melissa is, and she and my husband share a birthday. It's coming up, April Fool's Day.
Nice.
And so a long time ago, I saw tickets to this artist were going on sale, and I snagged them up, and I was like, Melissa, we're going to Milwaukee on this day for a concert. Do you want me to tell you who it is, or do you want to guess? And she was like, I'll guess.
Okay.
And apparently she, like, in her research, immediately found the person that we were going to see, but thought it was so unlikely that I would go with her to see this person that she never guessed it.
Really?
And so a couple weeks ago, I was finally like, I need you to try guessing more, because I'm starting to worry that I made up
that you like
everything about the scenario in which you would want to see this person.
Yeah.
And so finally she guessed it.
Yeah.
So we went to see Dottie Freyr.
Okay.
Who is an Icelandic pop star.
That's amazing.
Who was on Eurovision.
Okay.
He was Iceland's pick to go to Eurovision in 2020 and was like heavily favored to win.
Yeah.
And then it got canceled.
Oh no.
Because 2020.
Right. Makes sense.
But he did go later and got 4th place with a different song. But he's just like, he's fun. He's quirky.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's not somebody I would go to myself, but like with Melissa, it's like, well, yeah, you love this. She loves Eurovision. I was pretty sure she was the person who introduced me to this guy.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, we'll do that. And then like months go by and she hasn't guessed him. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, was this entirely in my head?
Wouldn't that be weird? She's like, I've never heard of this person. We're like, well, we're going to their concert. Yeah.
Like, I guess try to sell the tickets or something.
Right.
But yeah, it was great. The weird there was an opening act.
Okay.
That was these 3 girls from Australia. And I got to tell you, it was giving like high school talent show vibes.
Yikes.
Like they were fine.
Yeah. But not what you were expecting.
I was like, I wouldn't pay money to see these people perform.
Yeah.
So interesting choice as an opening act for somebody who's super talented. He plays a bunch of instruments, has a great voice, writes really fun, catchy music. Okay. Olivia Rodrigo was also across the street playing the Fiserv for him, which is huge.
Yeah.
So that sucked because we got huge concert traffic going to a pretty small venue with a pretty intimate setup.
That sucks.
But yeah, it was fun. It was definitely like our people.
Oh,
like
cool.
a bunch of people in their 30s and up who like politely stood and like jiggled our shoulders. There was no mosh pit happening.
Right. Yeah.
At this event. So yeah, we had a lot of fun.
That sounds amazing.
It was.
It's been a hot
Except for the part where like we're driving home and we're not getting back until 12:30 at night because like we went to a concert that started at 8 p.m.
Oh no.
On a Saturday. I was like, oh boy, I don't know when I'm old. I'm too old probably to do this.
Yeah, that would be tough. If it started at 8, that would almost be enough for me to not buy the tickets. Even if it was something I was really excited about, I'd be like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, we did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
That's awesome.
We'll see if we do something like that again in the future. I think we're probably just at the age now where like I would have to just get a hotel.
Yeah, there you go. That's fair. So you don't have to fight
yeah,
back.
let's just not drive back.
Yeah.
Especially, and with the added traffic.
Yeah.
From Olivia Rodrigo, it's oh, yeah, that changed the math quite a bit.
Sucks.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Look at us being adventurous.
I know, right?
Because usually on the weekends, we don't do shit.
I come here often.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Sometimes I sneak over here so I can do some writing.
No. So,
yeah.
I'll be here this weekend almost for sure because there's...
to get caught up on stuff.
Well, yeah, because I think I sound better.
Yeah, you sound much better.
All the way better. I'm not all the way better, strangely. Still have some sinus pressure. This cold will not go the fuck away.
Oh.
It's 95% now, maybe even 96 better, but the lingering little icky stuff in there just constantly tripping me up. I am so sick of being sick.
Oh my God, that's awful.
So hopefully it goes away soon. Because I in work mode, I usually try to add a little bit of a buffer onto each project.
Sure.
Which is usually 1 day.
Yeah.
So if I think, this will take 3 days to record, I'll schedule 4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've run out of I've used up my next 6 buffers because
because you got super sick.
Last week I barely did anything.
Yeah.
And this week is starting much, much better, but still not quite all the way to 100% yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am just
that makes for a long week.
And we have New York coming up, and I was okay, all my buffers before New York are gone. I just have to record every day the right amount.
Oh my God.
And probably come in over the weekends.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. You're going to be very heads down. This will probably be the only time I see you this week.
Maybe.
You're probably just going to be in the booth for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Oof.
So yeah, so that's work-wise. How is Maz Maddox author doing?
Good. So our Cretaceous Crushes came out today in real time. So when this airs, it'll be what day is it?
It came out earlier this week.
Yeah, earlier this week. So that came out. So far, the ARC readers and stuff have really liked it. People are enjoying it. So that's always awesome because especially with anthologies, when you have a mixture of stories, there's always a couple you're like, But apparently everyone's really digging all of them, which is great. So we got a good group. So that's exciting.
Who did you think was going to be the dud?
I mean, I thought everybody sounded awesome. Oh. I was excited to work with everyone.
I thought I got you there for a second. It really looked like you were going to answer, and I was like, ooh.
No. Everyone looked like, I know most of the people on the list, so I was like, okay, this is a nice little group of nerds coming together to write about dinosaurs. And there was one sapphic story in there, and I think the author was nervous. She was like, if there's only MM, it's nobody's going to like this, but apparently everyone's on board, which made me happy.
Good.
Other than that, Simon Says Shift came out last week for our patrons, and they loved it, which made me happy.
Yeah.
Even though I was on the road to House on the Rock and remembered I hadn't sent everyone the book funnel, and I had a full panic. I was like, I can't believe I fucking forgot about that. I was so excited, and we still had an hour left on the trip, and I was like, I'm gonna pull over and let you drive, and he's like, just wait till we get to the hotel. It's fine.
Right.
And in my head, I was going to sign on and see all these messages. And of course, nobody cared. Everyone was nice. So that's awesome. And then the last thing is book 2 of Wild Contracts. The editor got back with me, and this is the first time I'm using this line editor. And she really liked the story, which is a nice ego boost. She was like, oh, it's great. I had such a good time with it. And let me just clean up my notes. But I was like, you didn't even need to tell me you liked it. I just wanted you to be like, hey, your grammar sucks. I fixed it for you. So, but yeah, so that's nice. So that's almost done, which is amazing. So once I get that back, I can lock it into place and start ramping up for a cover reveal and shit. Right. So yeah, things are happening.
Yay.
Yeah. And as far as day job goes, it sucks. And my only other coworker's leaving. So I'm trying to not think about that, but that's what's happening. But in happier news, our new audiobook comes out next week. Hopefully.
Yeah. Right?
Hopefully.
No, I was going to say, if there were not 5 Fridays in March, we would almost certainly be postponing it at this point because of how far behind I am. Because there are 5 Fridays in March and we're not set to launch it until later, I think we're going to make it.
Excellent.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
It's going to be tight. It wasn't supposed to be tight, but I think it's going to be.
Excellent.
But yeah. So what is that the 27th? 28th?
28th?
9th.
29th.
29th.
Yes. So
I was like, Like I just had to figure out what this Friday was. Add 7, dumbass.
Yeah, I do that too, but I have to do the like finger count because I'm a child.
Yeah, so the 29th, unless you hear differently from us.
Yeah, unless you look out for announcements.
And listen, if it's delayed, it will only be by a few days.
Right.
We're not going to wait until like the next month or something crazy like that.
Right.
Like it'll just be like when it's done, we'll put it out.
Yeah.
So we'll know next week. Listen to the podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Either there will be a book in your library or there will be a podcast telling you why there isn't.
Yeah, with us being like, sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the two.
Right.
But yeah, Shift, the third book in the Flesh and Bone series by Joel Abernathy. That series has waited years to be finished and it will finally happen. So of course I got a cold before.
Yeah.
So like,
of course,
it could wait a little bit longer.
Right.
But yeah, that's exciting.
That is exciting. I need to catch up on that. I need to we have time. I'm going to try to like binge through the first 2, but we're going to see what happens.
Oh yeah. I have to go back and listen to them too.
Because you got to remember all the peoples.
Remember what the heck happened.
Yeah.
And all the peoples.
Yeah. Like, what do they sound like? I'm sure you don't remember.
I don't.
Yeah. So it'll be kind of fun.
I remember a little bit because one of them was like a sample on my website for a long time.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, not much. Got to go back and remember it all.
Yeah. So for our topic this week, I wanted to see what you would be a master of if you weren't doing narration or in my case, writing. So if you could be a true like savant master of this thing, what would it be and why?
And this is in the real world, right? Not superpowers.
Oh man,
I would love some superpowers.
I know, right?
But in the real world.
Yeah, we'll do a real world for this one, but we'll save that one for another time because that sounds fun.
I would like to be a polyglot.
Okay.
Like I would like to be just like so good at learning languages.
That would be fun.
And just pick them up quickly and probably not, I mean, I wouldn't say easily, but like just the ability to add that much information to my brain and retain it.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that like I'm very good at like picking up information quickly.
Yeah.
And if I use the information on a regular basis, I hold on to it. But if I'm not using it, it goes away.
Right.
So like I took Spanish in high school and college and I was good at it. But because I don't use it, a lot of it is gone.
Right.
Mostly vocabulary stuff.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. To be able to like really take something in and use it. It's why I would be a terrible doctor.
Yeah.
Because I would have been great in medical school, learning everything.
Yeah.
But like,
unless you do those things all the time.
Unless there was a real world application, like it would just kind of flutter away.
I guess that would be true with any field of medicine though, because it's so specialized. Like if you're a brain surgeon, you can do that. But if you needed to do heart surgery, like how hearts work, but you wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, and that's why there are specialties.
Yeah.
So people can focus on
being a master
very,
at that
very
thing.
Good at a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But yeah. So yeah, I would just love to be able to go places and
that would be cool.
Like it would always be a great backup job. Like, well, whatever else happens in life, I can always go be a translator. So yeah, I just think that would be such a great skill to be really, really good at. And it's something I'm not very, very good at.
Yeah, I'm real bad at learning languages. I was reflecting actually on my drive home yesterday from what I was doing that while living in Texas in my youth, took French. I was like, why did I just want to waste my time like that? Like I should have been learning Spanish. Of course I should be learning Spanish. And I was like, I wonder why I did that. Maybe I was trying to be cool. I was like, everybody takes Spanish. I'm going to take French and remember none of it. I took like 2 semesters. It's gone. I don't remember shit.
Right.
But yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that would be cool. And I always like listening to my friends speak different languages. Like I always think that's so fun. But yeah, I think your answer is probably more actually useful than mine. Okay. Mine's extremely specific.
What's yours?
So I really, as a kid, after I was like really, really into dinosaurs, I wanted to be the mummy expert.
Oh.
Yeah. Totally pointless. Like there's only like 2 in the world because there's not a lot of mummies, right?
Sure.
So like that's what I wanted to do.
That we know of.
But I wanted to learn to be one of the specialists in that field, like be able to know, the region that they come from, how they were mummified, the cultural significance of them,
Yeah.
and it started out with being Egyptian because those are the most famous mummies. But then I got like really into like learning about like the Inca mummies and everything like that. But that's what I wanted to do when I was like 12. I was like, I want to be that person, and like looked into it. I think that's why I majored in anthropology later in life, because I was still like was holding out hope that was going to happen. But I was like, you have to learn a ton of languages. I'm shit at that. So yeah, but that's what I wanted to do as like my weird, very extremely specific mastery thing. I wanted to learn to be like the mummy expert. The mummy expert. Totally pointless. And again, there's only like 2 in the world. How was I ever going to achieve that?
I mean, I think if there's room for 2, there's room for a third.
Yeah, you can have like a really cool third person who's maybe not as good, but she's fun.
Right. The one who goes to conferences.
Yeah, I could be like the personality and just, that would be my job.
Yeah. That's still very cool though.
Yeah,
like, because
cool.
and it leans into your love of history and science and anthropology. And yeah, that makes perfect sense to me actually.
Well, and then the language one makes sense for you too, since like you like to speak and travel and things.
Right. So. I do enjoy speaking.
You do love speaking.
It's something I do. Yeah. All right. So, interesting segue. Insert that here. This week we had a chance to talk to author TJ Nichols. TJ is the author of over 30 paranormal and fantasy romance novels, some of which have been translated. The Studies in Demonology trilogy is available in French and German. Speaking of languages, there's our transition.
Yes,
there it is.
Perfect.
And others are in the works. They love writing about fated mates, enemies to lovers, found family, shifters, demons, and other monsters. They live in Western Australia, and when not writing, they're trying new things, such as glass blowing and knife making. 2 other really cool skills.
I was about to say, can I change my answer? Because both of those sound amazing.
Right? Which they like to call research. So those books are on the way if they're not already here.
Yeah.
But here's our conversation with TJ Nichols. Welcome to the Hoof and Fang podcast, author TJ Nichols. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we're really excited to chat with you.
Yeah.
You are a prolific author of a bunch of gay, paranormal, urban fantasy, science fiction.
Yeah.
Like it's everything we talk about on this podcast, basically. You've written it. So we're just excited to learn more about you and to celebrate your work and then nerd about our own specific interests.
Yes. I will wait patiently.
Yes. But first, we just want to learn more about your author journey. Like, how did you become a writer and what drew you to the speculative fiction genre?
I think like many writers, I read a lot as a child. I loved escaping into fantasy and time travel fiction, but I didn't realize it could be a job. And as I got older, I got a little bit burnt out of the hero having to sacrifice happiness and love to save the world. So then I had a very short-lived horror phase, but I scare very easily. And then I moved on to thrillers. And it was a few more years before I discovered paranormal and fantasy romance. And then it was a very short step to finding the MMF romance and then the romance. And that was when I decided I wanted to be an author, and I did all the research on how to make it a job. And here I am.
What was some of that research like? And what time period was that? Because so much has changed in the last, even just like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
When it comes to like your ability to be an author. So I'm just curious, like, what was the environment like when you were first getting started, and where did you learn?
At first, it was the how to write books in the library. And then obviously the internet made it so much easier to then research publishers, and then being an indie author, and the information was just there. Whereas when I was a child, the information wasn't there. There was no internet, or not that I had anyway. So yeah, being able to access that information so easily, and also being able to find out like genre specific information as well. And also the ability to even see that other people were being an author. Like to be able to see somebody doing it means I can do that.
And if you have the right type of personality.
Yeah, that's a big one, I think.
I think it takes a special person to know, to see it and be like, I can do it.
Yeah.
And then do it.
Yeah, that's the other part. It's like see it and be like, okay, yeah, I can do this, and then actually like take the steps and follow through, because it's terrifying to get started, to like actually sit down, write, and then put it out in the world. It's scary.
Yeah, there was sort of a, insert training montage period in there, learning to write, doing the research, all of that kind of stuff.
So what was the first book you put out? And is it still out in the world?
Warlock in Training was my first novel. It is definitely still out in the world. It's been translated into French and German, and the Studies in Demonology trilogy is still one of my most popular series.
What have you seen over the last few years that's maybe different than when you first got started?
I think it's never been easier to be a published author, but at the same time, it's probably also never been harder because it's never been easier. So then there's more people, which means discoverability then becomes a different issue.
Yeah. It's the same for narrators.
Yeah.
Like, how much do you think about that? Do you think about like what's popular, I'm going to write to that? Or are you just inspired by a story and you go where it takes you?
I am aware of what is popular, and I do read, the trending, well, not all of them, but I do make the effort to read, what is popular. Why is it popular? So I tend to look at that. But I also know that some stuff is not my jam to write, and I'm not going to write it. It's as simple as that. I don't want to yuck anybody else's yum. I love writing shifters. I love fated mates. My stories tend to be more angsty than fluffy. I know what I enjoy. Your
shifters span such a wide range.
Yeah, they really do. It's like a little bit of everything. And it's all different takes too. Like it seems like it's like uniquely your vision on very specific things. Like incubi, like eat souls and things like that. Like that's just different and interesting. And I actually wanted to ask about like how you start with your world building, because these books all have very unique, interesting worlds crafted around them. So like as a fellow author, I would love to know kind of where you start when it comes to your world building process, when it comes to like unique shifters.
Okay, so the Mytho Investigation series has shifters, and the Familiar Mates world, which is 3 series now, obviously has the same rules. As for world building, I kind of start with the characters and I discover it with them, and then I keep copious notes to keep the rules established. But I also find that once I'm 3 or 4 books into a series, I just know that world. And through last year and the year before, I was alternating between Mytho Investigations and Familiar Mates world books. And because in my head, the worlds are so well defined, it's actually really easy for me to switch between the two and not get the rules muddled. But I don't actually sit down and create a world building Bible before I start. I discover it. But that said, I actually plot out things like romance arcs and the key points of each individual book.
Yeah, I noticed that you have a gay action horror series that has prehistoric or like marine reptiles and dinosaurs. So of course I have to ask you about that, because I also write dinosaurs and love dinosaurs. So do you have a specific inspiration that got like kind of kicked off that series?
Not really. I saw a submission call from the publisher and I went, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I thought, I can have the dinosaurs eating all the straight people. So that's what I did. And it was a lot of fun to sort of research the different dinosaurs and the different areas where they lived. So I did a whole bunch of research to write them. And then I just had a little bit of fun with getting the humans stuck in the past dealing with dinosaurs.
Were you a dinosaur lover as a kid?
Yeah, I did like dinosaurs as a kid. I wouldn't have said I was all over them, and I couldn't have named more than sort of a half a dozen of the most popular ones. But there was a fascination with them and the kind of world they lived in. And I think probably evolution as a whole, like how everything came together. That I always found fascinating. Prehistoric world building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kindred spirits. Like evolutionary biology is my jam. I love all of that. I went to school for it. Like it speaks to my heart. So I can definitely see where you're coming from there. Like that's my love language is talking about evolution.
So my question for both of you is, as people who are so interested in that, like almost on a scientific level, how do you approach writing something that's so fantastical as like shifters?
I like the science to make sense in my head. So if shifters are shifting, how does it work? Why does it work? Can shifters reproduce with humans or only with shifters? You know, if they're a dragon shifter, well, do they hatch? Are they born as dragons? You know, when does shifting happen? You know, so for my familiar mates world books, it happens around puberty that you start shifting. For Mytho Investigations, Edra, my dragon shifter, he hatches. He doesn't even shift to a human form until he's a few years old.
That would make sense. Like puberty kicking it off. That's so standard for most animals.
Look at you already making it make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
That tracks. I'm 100% on board on that.
Have you ever had to like change it a little bit because you reached a point in the storytelling where like, oh, I really wish this rule that I made up didn't exist, and then went, wait a minute, I made it up?
No, because normally by the time I reach a point where it becomes problematic, I'm just like, ooh, I'm X many books into the series. I'm just going to have to find my way out of this corner.
Written into a corner.
Going back to change.
I think we've all been there. I've 100% done that where I'm like, wow, it would have been. Yeah, right? Yeah, it keeps you on your toes. It makes it to where you kind of have to improv your own stuff sometimes, I think. Because it's like, you know, you're X amount of books in, you're like, man, I kind of wish I would have established in book 2 that they could do this. Because now if they magically have this ability, it would kind of not make sense. So sometimes you're like, well, that would have been nice, but we're going to have to roll with it.
No.
Here we are. Let's deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. Here we are.
So what's your answer? As somebody, I'm surprised I haven't asked you before, but just like as scientific minded as you were, as anthropological as you are, like how the hell do you go and write centaur shifters and make it make sense?
So I think I'm aligned with TJ. It has to make sense in my brain. So I try to make it as loosely scientific as I can without it reaching within the confines of what I know is true. Like everything that makes up what we are as humans can be kind of switched on and off. Like if you look into Jack Horner has a book called How to Build a Dinosaur, where they turn on the gene in chickens for them to grow teeth in their beaks. So all of these evolutionary traits are still within our DNA or in our genes. You just have to go in there and turn it off and on. Or like a fun, cool fact is that there's a gene in your hand that grows this thumb specifically. You can turn that off, or you can implant it on the other side of your hand and grow a thumb there. So it's all just tweaking and moving things around to make it make sense. So if you have the gene capability to tell your bones to reshift or whatever, I mean, run with it scientifically, it could make sense if you build a world to where genes just behave that way, then you could go from a centaur to a human because those genes are just baked into your species. So, yeah, just being super nerdy and being like, why not? Let's just make it make sense.
Science is kind of magical sometimes.
Science is magic. It's just magic we understand, but it doesn't make it less magical.
I'm curious, TJ, you already mentioned that you have your books translated into other languages, but even just in an English reading market. You're in Australia. So much of the fan base for gay romance specifically is in the States, in Great Britain. Like I know so many people I happen to have a few friends in Australia as well who really love it. But like, have you gotten to like meet people, or do you hear from people all around the world? What do you feel your impact or like footprint is as an author?
I do hear from readers all around the world. I get emails, fan mail.
Yes,
I do
own
know
it.
that,
Say it.
Fan
mail.
fan mail.
Yes.
Authors love it when readers email them.
Yes.
Please email us. Yeah, look, the US is a big chunk of my sales. Obviously, it's bigger population, especially compared to Australia. I have done signings in Australia, so I do meet people. We're not that isolated.
I can't wait to visit.
Yeah, I want to go too one day.
It is lovely. There is a lot to see. Like, I think the distance between Perth and Sydney is the same as your east and west coast. So big.
Have you ever gotten an email from somebody from a specific part of the world and you're like, I didn't even know people read my stuff in this part of the world? Like, that's happened to me before. Like, I've been gobsmacked by somebody being like, oh, I'm in Israel, or like, something like that. And I'm like, I didn't even know like my books were over there. That's amazing.
I guess with the internet, books are available everywhere, particularly if you've got wide books, like through some of the other retailers. They literally have ebook stores globally. So there is more of a chance to reach more people. I know when I was starting out, I was more conscious of setting books within America to be more accessible to the American reader. But with the Familiar Mates series, I then was able to start introducing a few books set in Australia and a few books set in the UK. And now with the third spin-off, Brothers of Fire, I've actually just made up a kingdom in Europe, sort of a secret hidden kingdom where the Phoenix shifters rule. So
I like that approach.
Yeah.
I think if I ever end up writing a book, we're going to have to start there.
Yeah.
that's
awesome.
Just a made up place, because I think the OCD would get in my way of like, what if I get any detail wrong? Even if I said it in my hometown, I'd be like, oh, I got to go back and walk the streets and just make sure I'm getting this exactly right. But I can make it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely have approached situations like most of my, other than the Relic series, everything else is made up worlds, because I'm like, I really haven't traveled that much. So like, unless it's set in like Dallas, I don't feel very comfortable trying to like wing it. So I think making up like your own world also lends it to where you can kind of make it whatever you want. You can include everything.
Yeah, there are advantages to creating your own secret kingdom.
That should just be a shirt. There's advantages to making your own secret kingdom. I like that.
Add it to the merch.
Yeah.
The list of merch we'll probably never make. I love, though, that you do get to create stories in Australia as well. Because, I mean, it's a problem how US-centric so much of our media is.
Yeah.
And of course, like, we grew up with it. We probably didn't recognize that until adulthood. But yeah, it is, when you really sit down and look at how much of what we read, even in this genre, is so US focused. I, as a reader, feel like, oh, am I missing out on like that experience of like getting to experience somewhere else, because so much is US centric.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
yeah,
I'm excited to pick up one of your books that's set in Australia.
Well, I've got an entire series of wolf shifters set in the eastern states. So they're set in Victoria. So Amazing. The Outcast Pack, part of the Familiar Mates World series, follows a bunch of gay werewolves. And I've got a Kickstarter in March for the hardback illustrated omnibuses.
I was going to ask you about that. So this episode will come out March 22nd. So it is a perfect time for you to tell us all about your upcoming Kickstarter.
It's actually my second Kickstarter. I did one last year for Ogres and Other Dating Dilemmas, which was a spin-off of the Mytho Investigation series. And so that was my first dipping my toes into the world of Kickstarter. And then I decided it would be a really nice way to finish off the Outcast Pack series. So book 8 will launch with the Kickstarter. And so that means each of the omnibuses is going to have 4 books. All of the couples have been illustrated. I've got dust jacket, case laminate art, bonus scenes for all the existing couples, and a whole bunch of really cool swag for the book boxes, which I'm doing.
That is so cool.
That's such a cool idea too. I love that. And like, I've got the Kickstarter pulled up. The art looks beautiful. So yeah, that's just such a unique way of like launching something like that, like doing those like really epic, unique editions for your books is like rolling it into like one big event. That's just so cool.
Yeah. And we will put the link for that in the show notes for this episode. So if you are listening to this on the day it comes out,
yes,
this upcoming Monday is the first day. You should go check that out. And then they only have it's a couple weeks that it's open, right? Till the 14th, like 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got to jump on it while it's, because the window's so small. So smart.
I mean,
So
why wait?
Yeah. Do it
Just
now. Just
mark it in your calendar and
Yeah.
go do it right away.
Exactly. Yeah. That's awesome. I really like the art too. It's so pretty.
We started to go down this road earlier and then got interrupted, but like you have such a wide range of types of animals and shifters that you've done. But there is one I have to say, as I'm scrolling through your books, that I have never seen anyone else do. Do you want to guess which one it is?
I've got 2 that I'm thinking.
Oh, okay. Okay. The one that really grabbed me was the hippo. I've never.
I don't think I've ever
telling
seen
you,
it. Yeah.
I've never seen on any other book cover.
Yeah.
Besides like maybe a children's book with a cute little animated hippo probably wearing a hat.
Yeah.
I have never seen in this genre.
And they're such cool animals. They're deadly and like vicious. I'm like, they can take out everything. Like that's such a cool idea.
And that was one of the reasons where I was like, hippos are deadly. Like they kill people.
Yeah.
You get bitten by their teeth. It's a big hole punch in their bacteria. Anyway, so I just went, that would be a cool shifter. And obviously in the Familiar Mates world, I'm always looking for different shifters to bring in. So I had the Komodo dragon and also the leopard seal, which are also rather unusual.
Oh yeah.
The Komodo dragon would be amazing. Yeah. I think I'm still a little bit more afraid of the hippo though, if we're being real. Like, cause I think the statistics on like how many people they actually take down a year are staggering. Like they're vicious things.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always fun to research the animal as well, because there's no point in writing a shifter if you don't include some of the animal traits in the character.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. So is your hippo...
Well, for me, that is the fun.
Yeah, that's me too. Like researching animal stuff I love that. So is your hippo, is he kind of mean, or is he like a cinnamon roll on the inside kind of thing?
When I was writing that, I don't think the term cinnamon roll was actually around.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say he's a cinnamon roll with his mate.
I love that.
But he's also a coven agent, so he is pretty dangerous.
Perfect.
Okay, so I have a question.
Okay.
What's a cinnamon roll?
Oh, have you not heard that? Like,
No.
Okay, so it's like sweet, like kind of like somebody who could be like rough and gruff on the outside, but if they're a cinnamon roll on the inside, they're like really sweet and like loving kind of. Yeah. So I guess it's more of a new terminology, like cinnamon roll, grumpy sunshine, like that's kind of a newer term.
These are the things I miss by so adamantly avoiding anywhere that readers are talking about the things I do. Because I avoid it so intentionally.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
I don't
that's
ever
fair.
accidentally see somebody saying something bad about me.
Yeah, I've somehow skirted that line where I'm in these like some of my favorite bookstagrammers, I think, use these terms. So that's how I learn is like very happy people posting about like grumpy sunshine and I'm in my cinnamon roll era and I'm like, oh, this is fun.
Okay, that's cute.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know that term.
Yeah.
I'll use it.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad the hippo is a cinnamon roll. I was hoping that because it's like if he's going to be that scary, I'm like, I hope he's warm and gooey to his mate.
They tend to be the heroes that I write.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, no, that's not true. I was going to say, like, don't they almost have to be? Because, like, why would you want to read about somebody who's an asshole? But then again, there are whole genres that are devoted to...
That's a whole thing.
Some people really like that. So, yeah. Again, who am I to yuck their yum?
Yeah, exactly. Some people like the jerks.
Yep.
They can be charming, though.
Well, hopefully only in a book.
Yeah, there's a big asterisk there. Like, only in fiction is it okay to be like, oh, that guy's a jerk. If in real life, we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, since you write a little bit of everything, and this just could be because you've established your brand, but you run the gambit. You write historical urban fantasy, which I didn't even realize was a thing, and I'm obsessed with it now. You have contemporary, you've got sci-fi, you have like gay horror, like you kind of write a little bit of everything. Did you have a hard time kind of establishing a brand when you have such a wide variety, or did it just kind of piece together as you went?
I think at the start I was dabbling in a lot of things. So I wrote Studies in Demonology, which is fantasy. And then I dabbled with some of the dinosaur action horror.
Mm-hmm.
I've found my groove with the Familiar Mates series, which is pure paranormal romance. And then every so often, though, I will still write something, usually standalone, just because I've got an idea that I really just want to play with, like Liminality. It's a standalone book. People keep requesting more in that world. And I'm just like, I think I've said what I want to say about that world. I mean, I never say never.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in my head, it was always a standalone story. And it's still the longest single book I've ever written. Because obviously I'm not including like 7 books following the same couple, which is way more words about their life.
I stand on your side. I will always support the author who says, no, I told that story.
Yeah.
And I can't, I literally can't imagine the pressure that you must feel.
Yeah, that's got to be intense.
When they're telling you, but no, I love this thing so much. That's why I want you to give me more of it. And having to be the adult in the room and say, no, dear, that story is done. Yeah. But I'm on your side. I say, if you feel it's complete, I would much rather want more than get more and realize, oh, the author actually didn't have any more to give me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm aligned with that. Because sometimes, that's it. The story's done. Like you've said everything you wanted to say. The story's complete. And, that's where readers can do fan fiction and write their own stuff and just explore doing other things within the world and just have a good time. But like canon, it's wrapped up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be tough. I'd probably crumble if I'm being honest. Like if everyone just suddenly was like, oh my God, we want more Ethan and Jag, I'd probably be like, okay, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be able to stand firm and be like, no, it's done. You know what I mean?
Well, and like you said, the door's never closed.
Right.
So maybe 20 years later, you're suddenly like, hold on a second. I have an idea. So.
Yeah, because once you've built an entire world as well, it's like, well, I've built this thing and now I'm just going to walk away. Yeah. So you sometimes think, I've got this entire world here. I could do more with it. But the characters, I don't have any characters to tell another story in that world with. And usually for me, it's the characters that come first.
That makes sense.
Yeah. We're so grateful that you came and chatted with us and so grateful that you stuck with us through the tech problems. And we look forward to hopefully chatting again in the future.
That'd be great.
Thank you again to TJ for joining us and being such a great sport about our technical issues. Hopefully you as the listener didn't see any of that.
Yes.
Didn't hear or see any problems, but it was a mess. So
it was another thing of just our internet just sabotaging the interview as best as it could. And we ended up fixing it like towards the middle, but the beginning of that was rough.
But it all comes together in the end.
It really does.
And TJ bore with us.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Much,
they're so cool.
wherever you are listening to this episode, we thank you for joining us. If you happen to be listening through Apple Podcasts, subscribing, rating, and reviewing can help us find even more wonderful listeners. And the same is true if you're watching on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, share, let people know about the podcast. We definitely want to find more listeners. And as usual, you can follow Hoof and Fang on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon. And we will be back next week, fingers crossed, with a new audiobook.
Indeed.